Americano newspaper. Best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies in each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and Sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of news. The best analysis in regional, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information in championnews.net. The conservative voice for Illinois news and commentary on education, pensions, and politics.
Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line. This is Deb Gordills, and thank you so much for joining me this week. And so we have a lot of great information packed in for you, a lot of Chicago politics, a lot of national things going on, a lot of results coming in for elections across the country, and what does that mean for Republicans. So we want to kick off the show, as always, here in Chicago, this political talk show, with people who can give you new information about what's happening out there in the political world when the commercials are still quiet. So on the phone, I have Jay Stone, who I absolutely love. What a brilliant man he is. He is a political activist. He's been at it for a long time in Chicago. I honestly can say that no one, not even David Orr, knows more about the Board of Elections than Jay Stone. Jay Stone, welcome to my show.
Thank you. It's an honor, privilege to speak with you.
Thank you so much. So tell me, I know that on Friday or Thursday, or maybe it was even as early as Wednesday, you had been telling me something's going to be going on June 16th down at the Board of Elections or in some federal court or some court of some sort. Can you tell me what's going on?
Sure. I received a letter from a federal court judge, I believe it's Judge Schenecker, who's in charge of the Shackman monitors, and the city put in a application to have the Shackman monitor removed, and so the judge gave us two, maybe three options.
Okay, tell everybody what the Shackman is. Maybe many of my listeners might be tuning in for the first time and not be that politically familiar with the term.
Sure, I'd love to do that. Well, starting in 1988, when maybe it was 1998. Yeah, it was 1998. Richard Daley was the state's attorney. He was the highest legal officer in Cook County, and he set up an illegal organization. He worked with Hispanic Democrat organization, and he promised city jobs in return for campaign help. So once Mayor Daley won the election from 1988 to 2004, the city rigged jobs. So they had phony job interviews, promotional interviews, and so basically the city was violating a decree called the Shackman Decree, and it's named after Attorney Michael Shackman. And so they had this army of patronage workers that were not being paid for by the Democratic candidates themselves. They were paid for by the taxpayers.
Yeah, that is unbelievably criminal. Just recently, somebody had come to my office and had said that there was an appointment by Pat Quinn who failed to meet any of the even basic requirements of a job description needed to hold this very high-powered position. I want to say it's a fire marshal or something like that. And the person was only an EMT. And he is overseeing fire prevention codes and fire codes throughout the city, which only a fireman would have that kind of background, and the job description clearly says. But he was a paramedic, and he went straight from a part-time paramedic to an extremely powerful position. How does that happen unless the person has clout?
Right. Well, actually, Michael Shackman, I believe, is preparing a lawsuit to go into federal court and have a monitor assigned to the state of Illinois. And I'll point out that this illegal patronage, this large criminal organization, started and run by the Democratic Party, went on for 16 years from 1988 to 2004, and that's when the FBI raided City Hall, and they found documents, including the famous clout list that was on Intergovernmental Affairs executive Robert Zorich, and so at one point when Zorich heard the FBI was looking into the job rigging, he told his employee underneath him to throw the computer in the Chicago River. But instead of doing that, he just bashed it with a hammer, and the FBI was able to reconstruct his files. And of course, Zorich was convicted. And so the federal court put monitors to supervise the city of Chicago, Cook County government, Cook County sheriffs, Cook County forest preserves, and there was 5 monitors appointed in all. And so for the last 9 years, there's been an employee of the federal court that's been overseeing the city of Chicago, and there's still, even with the city of Chicago, even with the monitor, and if people want to look up on the internet, it's just type in shackmanmonitor.com, and they can see the original lawsuit that was settled by Richard J. Daley, and it's kind of funny because his son Richard M. Daley violated the decree that was started by his father.
Well, people always said there was a difference between the two of them. Yeah, people always said there was a huge difference between the two of them. A lot the same, a lot different. That was definitely one of them. You and I know that even though these monitors were put in place, there was other ways to go around it because a lot of people have gotten jobs, not as easily as before, but have still gotten jobs where they needed to make sure that they controlled who was hiring or who was calling the shots in those particular positions.
Well, and I agree with you. But there are some. I think there's about 1,000 exempt. They call it Shackman exempt employees, so that and they're in policy making positions, so that the mayor has the authority to hire someone. That worked on his campaign.
Yeah, I actually worked in one of those positions under the former mayor Harold Washington, the late Mayor Washington, and I was assistant mayor of employment and training, overseeing $43 million of the city's budget that was coming in for summer JTPA programs as well as year-round programs. And so we delegated that money to service providers like Association House and Spanish Coalition and other agencies that were operating and providing services for those who needed it in the city of Chicago. So I was very much aware that political appointment was one of those 1,000 jobs that the mayor had. I stayed on board with Eugene Sawyer and went through a year. I went through the primary that Daley won. Saw a lot of pink slips on every office door except for mine. Worked for Mayor Daley for a year and a half. Almost, I would say 5 months in, someone came into my office to share my office to train with. I was supposed to train them to take over my job, which I did faithfully, and then I was asked to leave. So I was one of the last people to go from that period of time.
Yeah. Now, and I would like to point out that the Shackman monitors it's all democratically held offices. Mayor of Chicago, Cook County President, Cook County government, which is all run by Democrats, Cook County Sheriff, Democrats, Cook County Forest Preserves, all run by Democrats, and there's never been an allegation against Republicans. And because of how Democrats have stolen votes, have not run fairly, and took steps to have an unfair advantage over their competitors, it switched me from, it turned me against the Democratic Party. But I should tell you why there's this hearing for the monitor, because Rahm Emanuel's up for re-election, and it would be to his major benefit if the judge says, okay, we're going to remove the monitor now. And so he can go in place. You see, even the federal court says I'm a reformer. And I vehemently oppose Rahm Emanuel's or the monitor being removed from Chicago for several reasons.
Tell me what they are.
Okay. Well, first of all, the length of the scandal. The scandal went on from 1988 to 2004, so it went on for 16 years. And then it involved hundreds and thousands, actually probably several thousand people that were hired in violation of the Shachtman decree. And it also involved multiple offices. And if you think about Chicago as the epicenter of it, and the headquarters for this illegal operation was the Intergovernmental Affairs Office. And if you think of what the Intergovernmental Affairs, it works with different governments. And so by design, this illegal operation was meant to work with, say, state reps and state senators to get laws passed, or people in county government, elected officials in county government. And so these campaign workers that were illicit, they were meant as a threat. You either go along with us or we remove you from office. And I'd like to point out to your audience that I was, when this illegal operation was uncovered, there was a settlement, a $12 million settlement, and I was the only candidate for public office to receive a monetary reward because my civil rights were violated when I was a candidate.
Well, these civil rights, you know that I try to help as many people get on the ballot and run for office throughout the city of Chicago, whether it's the south side or north side of all ethnic groups. And I can tell you, their rights are violated all the time. It is constant struggle to just give them their basic right to the electoral process. Because of the way the system and the machine is in place, their job is to knock these candidates off their base. They don't even allow an average citizen to run. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to run as a Republican, a Green Party, or an independent, or even a Democrat. If you're not the Democrat they chose, you're out of there. And they will do everything they have to threaten you, intimidate you, and falsify allegations against you to try to keep you from getting on the ballot. It is an unbelievable job with 100 different roadblocks that need to be met. And so many of the candidates are blindsided because they just want to try to run for office and serve their people.
They want to change, they want to make it better, and that was my incentive. And just to show, people might be skeptical about what you said, but in 2012, 90% of the state senators, the Democratic state senators from Cook County, ran unopposed. That was 18 candidates out of 20, Democratic candidates out of 20, and 78% of the Democratic candidates for state rep ran unopposed. So that was 28 out of 60, out of 36.
I know, and you know that for the first time in over 3 decades, I spearheaded getting candidates slated in 2012 to try to fill vacancies for the Republican Party, and you and I know all 12 were kicked off the ballot.
Right, and I did the research, and the signatures were invalidated at a rate of 72%, meaning the Chicago Board of Elections determined more than 7 out of 10 voter signatures submitted by the candidates were invalid. Now, a typical invalidation rate would be somewhere between 15 and 20%. Maybe for a referendum, the invalidation rate would be about 25%. So we're talking about 3 times the Chicago Board of Elections invalidates signatures about at a rate of 3 times greater than the national average. But I didn't really finish the reasons why I oppose removing the monitor.
Right. But you know what? We're going to have to go to commercial breaks, and we'll be right back for you to give us those reasons. You've been listening to Jay Stone, my guest today, a political activist here in Chicago. Brilliant man. A lot to say, a lot of information. No one knows the Board of Elections and its history better than Jay Stone, and we'll be right back. You've been listening to Deb Gordills here on 1500 AM.
Americano newspaper. Best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies in each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of news. The best analysis in regional, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information in championnews.net. The conservative voice for Illinois news and commentary on education, pensions, and politics.
Welcome back to The Bottom Line. I'm Deb Gordills. I hope you've been enjoying my show. And when we left for the commercial break, I said 1500 AM. But you're actually also hearing me right now at this moment from 5 to 6 p.m. if you're listening in Chicago, 1590 AM. And if you're listening in your southeast part of the city or in Indiana, you're listening to me on 1470 AM, WGCO. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to the sponsors of the show. We are talking with Jay Stone, a political activist in Chicago, who has spent many years studying and researching the Chicago Board of Elections and the Board of Elections decisions on candidates, who's going to run and who's not. And pretty much, Jay, they're the decision maker. They decide who the citizens of Chicago or the state of Illinois get to vote on. So the choice is really not for the citizens on Election Day. That's already been decided by the Board of Elections when they show up to vote.
On my website, I wrote an article, How Chicago Machine Renders Voters Irrelevant. So take the 2012 elections. Voters in 90% of the state Senate districts were irrelevant on Election Day because the candidates were running unopposed. 18 of 20 Democratic state Senate candidates were running opposed, or for 78%, the state representatives were running unopposed on Election Day. So voters were irrelevant in 78% of the districts. But I wanted to, finish my reasons why.
Yes, please go ahead.
Why the judge should keep the Shackman monitor, and Michael Madigan was one of the key beneficiaries of the Shackman violations. Mike Madigan would routinely get jobs for members of his political organizations, and Mike Madigan is still the Illinois House Speaker, and he's still the chairman of the Illinois Democratic Party. And then you have the Cook County Democratic Party leader, Berrios, who's also been involved in patronage, and he's basically has told the Cook County Monitor the Cook County Inspector General to shove it when the Inspector General released a report and issued fines to him. He just said, "I'll hire who I want to hire, and I won't pay the fine."
But I want to just mention that Joe Berrios was not able to keep his daughter in that position. She lost re-election recently, and so is this a sign that the Democrat Party is losing its power, maybe through the Shackman decree, by not being able to make promises or get enough people out there to help his daughter stay in office?
I think this is an anomaly. The Democrats still have greater power today than when the Shackman violations were occurring, and that's because they started to change the election law so heavily in their favor that no Republican or independent candidate stood a chance. Representative Dave Winter said.
You mean no Democrat voter stands a chance unless they're asked to run? I think Democrats voters need to understand, because so many of them say, "Yay, our party won," and you know what? Yes, your party won, but you had nothing to do with that because you have no control or power within that party. I mean,
That's true.
Voting Democrats are really disillusioned if they think that they have anything to do with the victories on election day. It isn't about them. They are not allowed to do anything but come out and do what they're being told. And that's the way it works. If any one of them don't believe me, I'd like them to try to run for office, any office. I'd like for them to just walk into the alderman's office and say, you know what? I'm thinking about running for this. What do you think about that? And I want you to then call me back with your reaction, because I can tell you right now that you're going to be discouraged from doing that.
Sure, and maybe even threatened.
Yeah, you thought you were friends.
I agree with you. When I was a Democrat, and I think a lot of people, follow the political party of their parents, or, I was a Democrat because...
Well, I think people need to know, Jay Stone, that if your last name sounds familiar, it should. Your father was a powerful Democrat in Rogers Park, Bernie Stone, forever.
Right. And I first went door to door with him. I remember I was like 6 or 7 years old. But I was what led me to the Democratic Party, was during the civil rights, and I supported the civil rights, and yet the Democratic Party of Chicago today is doing the exact opposite. That the right to vote, the right to run for office is a civil right, and they're just denying that.
Yeah, but I mean, even, a lot of people, I heard in the 60s, everybody was running and saying, yeah, I'm supporting the Democrats. But I remember Mayor Daley, the senior, shouting at the Democratic convention and swearing up a storm and giving orders, anybody who was outside rioting, to shoot. What was it? Shoot and ask questions later?
No, it was a shoot to kill.
Shoot to kill. There you go. I mean, how do you...
Might have been during the riots after Reverend Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I was a little tyke, but I remember my parents' reaction, and they were afraid for us to go out, and there might have even been a curfew put on the city of Chicago, because I remember we couldn't go out after dark, or something was going on. I remember watching the riots on television. I didn't really understand what was going on, just that there was a lot of chaos. I was still too little.
And again, that's, if you involve the police department, there's been a history of the Chicago Police Department infringing upon the civil rights. You had the Red Squad. It was basically Mayor Richard J. Daley's spy organization. There was a major settlement 4 or 5 years ago in which the police department was accused of using soft torture. They wouldn't give...
Yeah, but there was the Democratic Party controlling all that.
Et cetera.
Yeah.
And, of course, you had the Burge Commander Burge, who was torturing, I was going to say, some innocent people, or at least framing people. Mm-hmm. So he was violating the law, supposedly in the name of enforcing it. But I still would like to finish my reasons why.
Please. Sorry. So easily get distracted with so much to talk about with this Democratic Party here in Chicago.
Here are conversations when we're not on the air. Anyway, so you've got the leader
That's true, Jay.
of the Democratic Party, Illinois House Speaker and Democratic State Party Chairman Mike Madigan, who's still up to no good and denying candidates and voters of their rights. And the same thing with Berrios. And that the judge shouldn't just look at what goes on in Chicago and the hiring under a microscope. He really needs to look at this with a big picture. So the candidates and voters are in far worse shape today than when the judge assigned the Shackman monitor in 2005. But most of all, the reason why the judge should remove the Shackman monitor is because Rahm Emanuel had campaign workers in violation of Shackman, and we know this because it was part of the federal court testimony at the Zorge trial. that when Rahm Emanuel ran for Congress, Donald Tomczak, who spent years in prison, he had an army of campaign workers, up to 225, going door to door on behalf of Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah.
And then Rahm Emanuel also worked in the Daley administration, the Richard M. Daley administration, when the Shachtman violations were occurring. And if Rahm Emanuel testifies, I think it would maybe soften my opposition to removing the Shachtman monitor, because he'd be under oath, and with that, he would subject himself to perjury. You know, Rahm Emanuel can say what he wants to the media, but there's really no legal consequences. There might be some political fallout, but certainly he doesn't risk going to jail.
You know, political fallout is almost a farce nowadays when you figure that recent report that came out showing in 6 Southside zip codes, 60628, 60636, and numerous others right there alongside of it, over 150,000 extra ballots show up at the polls there every election. And so the Board of Elections wants us to believe that we don't have to worry. They're on their honor system, and those are not going to be filled out and put into the ballot box.
They're not fair and independent referees of elections.
No.
They have skin or money in the game. The chairman of the election board, since he's been chairman, has made about $35 million or more as a result of no-bid city contracts. So he wants to keep the mayor and the aldermen in office so that he can continue his endless stream of no-bid contracts.
Right. You know, it's really necessary for the citizens of this state who want to have fair elections. Fair. I'm not saying lean them one way or the other. I'm saying fair, F-A-I-R. They really need to take a look at the fact that when they show up to vote, there is a highly likely chance that when they walk in, the guy wearing the button that says Republican election judge is really a voting Democrat. Because there's over 60,000 vacancies or something.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But I think that people, they should start to question why when they go to vote, for example, was it February or March, that there was so many unopposed candidates, you know, on both the Democrat and the Republican side, that there was just so many unopposed candidates. And it goes against the grain of our Constitution, and it goes against our philosophy.
Yeah, and for all of those people listening and all those voters who don't vote, who say, forget it, I don't want to get involved with politics, that's why I hate it, that's why you're paying the taxes you're paying. That's why your city sticker, because you drive, went from like $30 to like $175 or whatever crazy amount to replate your car. That's why now when you buy a used car in the street, you have to pay a $300 used car tax. That's why you have Obamacare. That's why everybody's losing their health insurance. That's why there's unemployment, because you don't care to go and address your local officials on why they keep running unopposed, or why there's a Republican, there's a Democrat voter wearing a Republican election badge, or why people at the Board of Elections seem to just knock off candidates left and right when 48 other states are just collecting a fee. We need to get engaged. Either get engaged or be ready to get in line, and who knows where they're going to march you off to, because nobody's been paying attention.
I agree with you, but yet we have the elections, and it's the same old story. Look at Barack Obama, who ran for the presidency in 2008, under the banner of change.
Yes.
And yet, Barack Obama belonged to the political organization and was loyal to the political organization that has successfully resisted change more than anywhere else in the country.
Absolutely. This is a party that created the Ku Klux Klan, people. I mean, I can't believe that people still do not know that the Democratic Party were the founders of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, what the hell were they doing leading this? Yeah, what were they doing leading the civil rights movement?
President that freed the slaves.
It was a Republican president that freed the slaves. Absolutely. We're going to have to go to more commercials because, dear God, we can exhaust ourselves on this subject matter. You're listening to Deb Gordills, and my guest today is Jay Stone, a Chicago political activist who knows more about the Board of Elections than they do themselves. And where can people reach you really quick, Jay, if they want to get a hold of you or fund you to continue the great work you're doing?
Well, they can look at my website, stoneformayor.com, or just Google my name, Jay Stone Chicago, and they'll find me.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back after these commercials.
Sueño Americano newspaper. Best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies in each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of news. The best analysis in regional, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information in championnews.net, the conservative voice for Illinois news and commentary on education, pensions, and politics.
Welcome back. This is Deb Gordills, and my guest today has been Jay Stone, a political activist in Chicago. Jay has been really keeping an eye on the Shackman decree, very much involved in it. There's an upcoming court case. How do you think the judge is going to decide on this case?
Well, I think he's going to find in favor of Emanuel.
What?
Mayor Rahm Emanuel. And I think it's going to be political. You know, Rahm Emanuel is a Democrat, and the judge is a Democrat. And, if the judge...
Is this the first time this case is coming up to be heard, to be decided? Because I thought Daley tried, and they just ignored him and continued it.
No, Daley didn't go to court because I may have stopped him. When when I heard Daley was going to go to court, I wrote the judge, and I sent the judge newspaper articles and quotes from television that Mayor Daley and 4 aldermen said after I won my Shackman decree. So Mayor Daley called my Shackman Award silly, mocked the monitor, disrespected the employee that the federal judge had put in place, and so did 4 aldermen. And then on top of which, Daley hired Aon Corporation, gave Aon a $58 million no-bid contract, a human resource contract, to root out patronage. It was a patronage contract. Aon was supposedly donated a couple $1 million towards the Chicago Olympic bid, but Aon donated office space, office supplies. They used Aon employees to bid on the Chicago Olympics, and then Daley rewarded Aon with this huge no-bid contract. So I say, well, the mayor's not going to stop patronage. Here he hires Aon Corporation, which was a patronage contract, to end patronage hiring in the city.
Yeah, there's at least been 2 or 3 times when I've had business owners or companies owners of companies say to me, Deb, I'm in line to get this contract and get this job. We have to completely look the other way or do something else, as much as we hate to, because they're giving them these no bids so that they can continue to control them and support them. And they do control them when they can stop them from doing what is right.
Well, if you look at the city's website and compare it to let's say what's going on with New York or Los Angeles, every dollar that's collected and spent, you could read on the internet. In Chicago, they deliberately hide information. There's a deliberate lack of transparency so that you can't see where the money's going. I'll give you an example.
They do the same thing with the vote. There's no historical data on voter information, on voting patterns.
Less now because I've been using it, and the Board of Elections realizes it. And so after each election now, I collect the information and store it. But I was going to give an example of a lack of information. The mayor of Chicago can spend up to $5 or $10 million, it may even be higher now, without getting city council approval. And so it used to be published every month when Richard M. Daley was the mayor, but it was in such a convoluted form, it was very hard to get information. But once Daley announced he was running for re-election in August of, I believe it was 2011, he left office. So it was probably August. The city stopped putting all financial that financial no-bid contracts that the mayor doles out on the internet. So I can only imagine the last 8 or 9 months in office how much money Daley stole in terms of doling out contracts to his friends and supporters. It's probably astronomical.
You know, a lot of listeners might be feeling right now overwhelmed and just say, man, I can't even fathom, like they can't even wrap their brain around all this information that you've been giving them and that, you know, I've been sharing. So where do we go from here?
Well, someday I think I would like to write a book. I would call I think I would call it or do a documentary film, call it The Politicians of the Lie, from Mayor Richard M. Daley to President Barack Obama.
Okay, but you know, Jay, you have listeners who all agree with you and believe you. They don't need to read the book. They know that what you're saying is true. What are some of the things that they can do? Like, how do we empower them? Like, one of the things that I think would empower my listeners. Here's the one thing I know you could do, but you got to brace yourself, because if you do these kinds of things, Jay and I right here are telling you, you might get squashed. Like, you might get hit over the head with a hammer by the very alderman who's been courting you for the last 20 years. Would be very upset if you did something like this. Now, if they have nothing to hide, then maybe they wouldn't be so upset. So, you know, I say at the very basic level, what you do is, of course, you want everybody on your city block to come out and vote. That's at a minimum. You want to get everybody to come out and vote. But the other thing you want to do is you want to have somebody parked in front of that polling place when it opens at 7 a.m. and just take a tally of every female and then another category of male over the age of 18 that walks in that door. And then you tally up that count when that poll closes at 7 o'clock. You ask for the receipt. Now, in order to get a copy of the receipt, they say you should have a credential. I'll be more than happy to sign a credential for you. Any organization can sign a credential. If you are part of a group, of an organization, a church group, anything, you can get a credential. They give them out like, you know, Post-it notes at the Board of Elections, or any political office or any organization. You could call us and get one. And then you can ask them for the receipt at the end of the day, but you can always follow up and find out what was the vote total there. We overwhelmingly always found that if 100 people walked in to vote, there was always a larger number, and it seemed to all be going for Democrats as the ultimate number that we would see on tabulation. And sometimes it would be hundreds of voters off. And sometimes the receipt at the end of the day in a precinct would say 0, like nobody voted. And when we would talk to the Board of Elections about why did that receipt say 0, when we clearly saw, 227 people walk in or 330 people walk in, they would say, well, sometimes the machines mess up like that. But don't worry, we'll take the whole thing in and we'll get it all checked out. We'll get an accurate number. We'll let you know.
Well, better than that, just ask your listeners to be a poll watcher.
Oh, that would be fabulous. I would love it. If you could be a poll watcher, I would love for you to call us at 773-472-8683. Again, that's 773-472-8683. 8683 is vote. V as in Victor, O-T-E. Please call us if you want to be a voter.
I think you could be a poll watcher in Chicago without being a registered voter in Chicago.
That's right. You just need to be 18 years old.
Yeah,
no formal education. You don't have to graduate from high school.
Yeah, you could see for yourself. But as I said before, in most cases in Chicago, because so many candidates are running unopposed, voters are irrelevant on election day because the elections have been decided because there's only one candidate, a Democratic candidate, running.
That's right. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow, June 3rd, I think the petition sheets are due today, aren't they?
If a candidate wants to submit to get on the November election, being appointed by a party.
Yes, but I'm saying all of those petition sheets, because now being appointed by the party, you still have to collect signatures, so it's no different than if you would have collected signatures before. You actually would have been better off because you would have gotten an extra 30 days to collect signatures. Under this system right now, the way it works is the Republican committeemen or the Democrat committeemen in your district need to all get together and then fill out some paperwork saying that they're going to have you nominated as their favored candidate, and then you need to go out and collect 1,000 signatures, 1,500 signatures, and turn them into the Board of Elections today by 5 o'clock.
And of course, the chances of surviving a challenge if a candidate submits signatures by 5 o'clock today are slim.
Yeah, what's the percentage? What's the likely?
12 Republican candidates were denied ballot access in 2012.
Well, those were my 12. I remember. We ran out and we tried to get them. It was the first time in 3 decades in Chicago that the Republican Party had slated any candidates in Cook County. I spearheaded that project, and I talked to you during the whole time I was at it, and we saw them all go before
the attorney. I was doing some research.
I know. We had you getting research for the attorneys. We even filed a federal suit afterwards. One of the Republican committeemen in the 47th Ward, David Radowitz, went after them, trying to... you were helping him get the information, trying to keep them on the ballot. So only, 70 possible incumbents, all running unopposed in Cook County in numerous races, mainly House seats and Senate seats. We go ahead and slate for the first time.
28 judges out of 28 ran unopposed.
I know.
28. And this is supposed to be our judicial system in Cook County.
But this is why Illinois is last. This is why Illinois is one of the worst states in the country. That's why we have no money. That's why we're bankrupt. The state is bankrupt. This is why people are leaving. Unemployment rates are so high. And it starts with the fact that the Board of Elections is suppressing your vote. It's suppressing your choice. It's, in a state where choice is such a big darn deal, where's the voice choice? That's the only time the word should be used, not for abortion, non-abortion. The voters' rights are being violated left and right. If they weren't, you would see people on the ballot. You wouldn't see a 90% removal rate by the Board of Elections. Year after year after year after year. This is a constant.
Yeah. Anyway, Deb, I let go. Are we almost done?
Yeah. Well, you're almost done, my dear. But I'm going to be coming right back after these commercials with more on Chicago and some national issues that I want to talk with our listeners. Jay, thank you so much for this program. And if people want to get in touch with you again, they can go to jstoneformayor.com, correct?
Right. I'm not a candidate for mayor. I just kept up my website.
At one time you were.
To be a candidate in 2011.
That's right. And we would have been better off, but right now we got to take on these challenges. So, Jay, please come back after the decision is decided, whether it's in Rahm Emanuel's favor or not. If it's not, then that's for the benefit of the people, and come back and hopefully we'll have a victory chat about that.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jay. You take care now, and I'll be right back after these commercials.
Sueño Americano newspaper. Best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies in each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of news. The best analysis in regional, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information in championnews.net, the conservative voice for Illinois news and commentary on education, pensions, and politics.
Hello, this is Deb Gordills, and this is the last segment of my show today. And, I thank Jay Stone for being on our show and talking all about that court case that's coming up. I think it's June 16th in Chicago to decide whether or not Rahm Emanuel is going to be released from the Shachtman decree. I think in the benefit of all the citizens here in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, it's best that the federal monitoring stays in place, but that's just me. We'll see what the Democratic court judge and the decide. Hopefully it's in all your favor. So I know I wanted to get onto national politics. In order to do that, I have to find one of my good national Washington, D.C. people, and I have one of those. His name is Manny Rosales. Manny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we went through this whole great thing, and then boom, technology being what it is, I don't know where it's at on my phone. So we're doing this all over again just for you, the listener. Let me introduce Manny Rosales because he's a powerhouse. He's the former deputy director of coalitions for the RNC in Washington, D.C., the Republican National Committee. That's at the highest level possible in the Republican Party. And Manny, the RNC is coming here for their annual summer meeting, correct, in Chicago in August.
Absolutely. They're going to be there. It's going to be an interesting meeting. Obviously with the 2014 elections looming right down the next couple of months. And on top of that, you're going to have a lot of issues that will probably be discussed in reference to the national platform. As you can see, they've already began to change some platforms in reference to debates.
Yeah, and this is very exciting for Illinois because you never know where they're going to have these meetings anywhere in the country. So the fact that Chicago has been chosen to be the location for one of their meetings is very rare and a great opportunity for us to have in the RNC here. Sharon Day, who is awesome, is the vice chair of the RNC and doing a great job. I have seen Sharon Day and actually attended one of her big events here, which was Blackboard to Blacktop. Great event for women running for office. It was so informative. It was really great. I was happy to be a part of it and be here with her. And plus, I saw her at your event out in D.C. not too long ago for CPAC.
Yes. She's very much involved. When the RNC, with the new leadership in Reince Priebus, basically rolled the coalitions group that I was working with, into the co-chairman's office, and that's Sharon Day, and she basically has taken that and ran with it, and she's done a heck of a job going out all over the country, building these coalitions and maintaining them. So she's a terrific, advocate and a very, very hard worker. So,
she is a hard worker. I must have seen her.
She's in Chicago.
Yeah, I must have seen her at 4 different events. So talk to me. Did they pick a date yet for this in August?
I don't know exactly the date, but they promised to get back to me.
Okay, great. And in the heart of building these coalitions, I know that Sharon Day and the RNC have invited us to host a couple of events the day before, the evening before. They have their big meeting here, and we're going to do that together. You're the direct national chair for the RNLC, the Republican National Latino Coalition, and I am involved with the Illinois Republican National Hispanic Assembly, and the RNHA, along with you, are going to host a big Latino Republican event. Well, it's not just for Latinos, it's for everybody, but our organizations are Republican Hispanics.
Sure.
We're going to host an event for everyone to come. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, because as we get closer to the date, we'll be talking more about it and about these organizations. But you recently took on a new role, too, as Director of Latino Coalitions, right?
Well, I am not really a new position as a secretary for the Latino Coalition, which is a national organization with about 1 million plus members. That it's a business association, and it really focuses on 3 issues. And one of them is healthcare, which is big time right now. The second one is economics, which the economy is beginning to falter again. And then the last is education, which we need if we're going to be competitive in this world.
Right. You know, and our great friend Izzy Ortega, who was out in Washington, D.C., has now made a move over to School Choice Week, an organization very involved in education, and we wish him all the best. Let me ask you, we were laughing about this before. The presidential race, you're in Washington, D.C., so you hear all the buzz. And, I can't believe that Hillary Clinton is seriously considering it in light of Benghazi and what happened there. But, something else that I heard recently that made me chuckle a bit was George Clooney considering a run for the presidency. You don't think he's well prepared for such a role, even though he did it in some kind of movie he starred as.
He's definitely prepared to do that kind of role in a movie, but I don't think he's prepared to do that kind of role for real.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame.
Obviously, he's a very liberal individual, and he'll attract a lot of attention like he has already. But I don't think that he has any kind of chance to be able to pull that off.
Well, what I thought was really interesting is that the video, when they were talking about George Clooney running, the woman, of course, she was a Democrat, liberal, and she thought this was the greatest thing next to butter to have him running. And she played a few clips of him in his movie role, which the parts of the clips that she played was when he was defending the Constitution and, expounding on like all American, authority. And I thought to myself, my gosh, that's a Tea Party person speaking there. And they use that clip, and he's the farthest thing from those beliefs because he runs way left.
Yeah, big time. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. We don't need to go any more left. Yeah, we don't need to go any more left than we already are.
Have a lot of these guys that come out, looking for attention. Don't forget Colbert. He was going to run for president, and then you had Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, you had some of these real wild characters always, popping up during election years, particularly the presidential election.
Yeah, just because you write a check to the organization and go to their parties or throw them parties doesn't mean you really understand the nitty-gritty that has to go on with politics. And I really think most people don't want to know. They don't want to know the details and the difficulties and the roadblocks of really what it takes to get involved in a campaign, to even start up a campaign, or to, run as an elected official. It is not an easy task, And so my hat goes out to everybody who wants to try it. And by all means, George Clooney should, if that's what he wants to do. But it's not going to be as easy as some people are portraying it on TV. It's just not that rosy. Talk to me about. There was somebody else you mentioned that was thinking that recently surprising the media, saying,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader, they had a big article on him in the Washington Post last week in reference to the fact that he's kind of coming out with some conservative leanings. And it was like a big shock.
It was a big shock to people. Look.
A big shock to people that's occurring. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with what's happening currently with the current administration. There's a lot of people not happy.
Well, I think initially people thought that Barack Obama was going to be one-dimensional. I think they thought he was going to come in and he was going to do everything that he had said he was going to do. Because, man, he really gave a huge promise. And I remember, I think I wrote this for CNN or was it my Post page? But I wrote down, I said I really, really tried so hard to make sure that Barack Obama didn't even get into the position where he could win the presidency by voting in that primary, in that Democratic primary, Republican, yet I went and voted in the Republican primary, voted for Hillary Clinton as a woman, as opposed to Barack Obama, the entrenched Democrat. Who, yes, man, I was really afraid of what the machine was going to do if they got out to Washington.
Yeah,
and and everything I thought that I put down all came true. But I remember closing and saying, for the sake of this country, for the sake of every single American who voted for this guy, I hope he delivers a little bit, because he will demoralize our nation and bring them down after they really believed in his rhetoric. And lo and behold, here you go, 71% of Americans regret, no matter what color they are, 71% of Americans who voted for Barack Obama regret ever voting for him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can see his approval rate just keep dropping.
Yeah, and Obamacare is such a nightmare. You know, the front page of our newspaper, El Sueño Americano, shows in every state to date how many insurances have been lost by the people. How many people are uninsured now? They can't get Obamacare because for whatever reason this darn system isn't working for them, and they lost their own insurance personally. And so we have more uninsured people today, right now, than ever in the history of America.
Well, it's going to get worse as you'll see the small businesses begin to take the hit.
Yeah,
and then they're going to have to figure out how they're going to be able to balance.
Yeah, let's because we have only about 3 more minutes of the show before, of course, I don't have any more space, and the producers start yelling about how they drag on. But tell me the sentiment of the Republican Party. They're feeling pretty good right now that the American public is saying, absolutely, we cannot even trust Democrat leaders, any of them, to have any leadership role anywhere in America at this point. Is that true?
Well, I mean, it's obviously the Republican Party right now is in a good position, and it's up to them to win it, because obviously if you look at the polls and if you look at some of the candidates, how they're polling all over the country, particularly in the Senate races.
Yeah, and so we've won some Senate seats, haven't we?
Yes, we're looking pretty good. Now, that being said, it ain't over till it's over, as Yogi Berra said. And between now and Election Day, we got to keep hammering the issues that are most important to Americans, and that's jobs and the economy. You know?
Absolutely.
Transparency and leadership.
Yeah, right now, the American picture looks pretty bleak. I mean, we are in a weak point right now. No insurance, no jobs. Nothing.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, today there was an article in the Post that was talking about the fact that we're looking at a looming possible dip in our economic future.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Warren Buffett,
we're going to be in trouble again. We're still going to go back possibly to another recession, which is crazy. I
know. And, it doesn't help when you got Warren Buffett, who is a big liberal, left Democrat supporter, saying that Americans need to be really concerned about the currency, that the currency may very well lose its value. And that's scary for people who've been saving all their cash. If the money is worth nothing, and I don't know, there's a big rush on people buying gold and silver for that very reason. When you get somebody of the likes of Warren Buffett telling you that gold and silver and to prepare, that's kind of scary news. And, as usual, my show is about reality and political reality, and it's never a pretty picture. But, to leave everybody on a good note here, have faith. There are a lot of people, like Manny out in D.C., like me in Chicago, we're all over the country, true Americans who really believe in the American dream, who really know that good prevails, and we're going to come out on top out of all of this. We just want you to get the data so you're well informed and so that you can make the decisions to help you and to help your family. And you can do that by staying focused on campaigns and elections, whether it's in your hometown, in the state, or at a national level, and really keep an eye on your vote. Because if the vote is not true, if there's no truth in the vote, then we are just sort of sitting back with our hands tied behind our back, handcuffed, and don't have a lot of options. Keep an eye on those voting polls, those places where the votes are being counted and tabulated. Feel free to go and volunteer on your own, or get in touch with an agency near you where you can go and do something. Manny, closing comments. I know I'm going to see you soon. I want to have you on the show again as we're finishing up our airtime. Give us the good news out there in D.C.
Well, the good news is that pretty soon all of the Congress and the Senate are going to be going on summer break. That's the great news.
Yeah.
They can limit the damage.
That's right. Minimize the damage. Send them all on vacation. You're funny.
And they can go back and start facing the reality of their home constituencies and find out what really is important to the American public.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's it. That's it for today's show. Manny, thank you for helping me close up this program here today. I'm going to have you on the show again, talk about other things we didn't get a chance to talk about. To all of you listening out there, thank you so much. God bless. Take care. And I'll see you again tomorrow on WPJX 1590 AM or 1500 AM or 1470 AM. We're heard everywhere from northern Indiana up to southeast Wisconsin, throughout the city of Chicago, on 3 different stations from 5 to 6 p.m. and again from 8 to 9 up in Zion, Illinois on 1500 RadioLatina5.com. Thank you so much. You're listening to Deb Gordills. Have a great day. God bless. See you tomorrow.
Sueño Americano newspaper. Best newspaper in analysis in the state of Illinois. With over 20,000 copies in each edition, El Sueño Americano is available in all versions. El Sueño Americano Lake County, El Sueño Americano Pilsen, El Sueño Americano Southeast, El Sueño Americano Aurora, and sooner in many more regions. El Sueño Americano, the other side of news. The best analysis in regional, state, and national politics. El Sueño Americano is your alternative information in championnews.net, the conservative voice for Illinois news and commentary on education, pensions, and